Letter 1. Arenalitic Butte, Occident, November 4th, 1872. Most sophomorical Sir, your Greco-Latin epistolate, or Kabbalistical abracadabra, lies before me, deciphered and ecclesiasized to the best of my linguistic, passographical, and exegetical abilities. As a merited castigation, therefore, and to test your wonted longanimity, I shall recalcitrate by funding upon you, in apostolic form, my scaturiant cornucopia of lexiphanic sesquipedalities, Johnsonian archaisms, exoticisms, neologianisms, patavinities, edid genus omne. In former epistolary scribblings, I give the concatenation of concomitant circumstances initiatory to my transmigration to this remote section of the occidental portions of our Colombian Republican coagination. I have also delineated my periculous adventures among the fucated Rubicant autochthons or aborigines, portrayed various incidents of venations in which I participated, narrating Greek aggregations of bison and antelope capridae, which abound on the gramineous oxiduous plateaus, depicted my primal vision of the elusive phenomenon mirage in the Fata Morgana, and in verity recounted much of my vicissitudinous experience whilst with the caravan traversing the occidental champaigns. I am, however, not oblivious of the fact that when we imparted mutual valedictory conges, I myself obligated to a pantographical delineation of the opponent regions upon which I might cast my ophthalmic organs. As it would be a delucid evocation from my customary routinism to comprehend the fulfillment of my felicitations by procrastination or dereliction, I shall, deeming this a suffisance, primarily or prolegomenarily, essay to further exonerate myself of said obligations, and in primis give you a choreographical sketch of this part of our Hesperian domain and a compendiarious enumeration of some of its autochthonal flora and fauna. The superficies of the occidental portion are diversified by many altitudinarian, terrene, lapidarious, and rupellary acroceronian montanic elevations. Some of cyclopean vastidity and sublime scabridity, their maristant glacious pinnacles tower, apparently above the nubiferous regions, into the caliginous empyrean. The oriental portion is a vast, undulating plateau, extremely longitudinal and latitudinous, having few exiguous dingles. Its terreous surface is covered with the most nutritious autochthonous xerophilous graminaceous growth, principally Butulua oligostachya, Buclo and Tripsicum dactyloides, mesquite and grama. This growth sustains equine, bovine, hircine, and ovine quadrupeds in a state of rotund impinguation during the entire hymal season. Artemisia tridentata, the Solesequius helianthus, aculeated Cactus opuntia, and multifarious succulent acanthaceous and acidulated cactaceous plantage, and floriferous herbaceous and graminifolious garniture luxuriate in many localities. The fluvial meanders are limited, and originate from the action of the vast niveous and glacial accumulations in the montanic regions. None are navigerous, but they are Cretaceous and anatiferous. Some are Pactolian, and all are extremely relucent and possess a great degree of diaphaneity. None tardy in profluence. At many points, their rivages, especially in the vicinity of the embouchures or disemboguements of arroyos, are replete with a promiscuity of asperifolious, baxiferous, or cocciferous, vinaceous, arundinaceous, and other bushments. Myriads of venine, umbelliferous, corymbiferous, racemiferous, urticaceous, fructiferous, anthophorous, or floriferous plantage, and multifarious spontaneous esculent products also abound. The autochthonous arboreous growth consists of acerose, sempervirent, and pardifolious silver and boskages, by no means of a main arduity, or totally devoid of adansides, nodosities, and nags. Disboscation by succession and conflagrations will deplete the same in the next decade. The reptitory, panigerous, bisulcus, and unguiculated feral entities of this domain are, ouzels, ptarmigans, ortolans, leveroks, trochilies, shalducks, cryos, cockups, creeples, crotalluses, carcadews, logomys, castors, marmots, malodorous maripods, Spalagale putorius, Lepus campestris, Ovis montani, Antelope capridae, bison, spermophiles, coyotes, grizzlies, Ursus horribilis, and other animals of the murine, sirine, feline, canine, leporine, vulpine, lupine, ursine, cervine, caprine, ovine, and equine genera. Also, penipotent accipitrine and aquiline raptors. There are apparently interminable areas almost wholly monopolized by Cynomys ludovicianus. Viewing the ludicrous antics of these illusory sirine burrowing rodents in their circumcussations, or perched a la homo upon the apices of their coniform tumulosities, incessantly alliterating, one cannot control his risibles. The intermontane sections of this region are as auriferous and argentiferous as any of the austral, remote, austrine, occidental, or extreme occidental and septentrional sections of this republican agenation. They are also feriferous, carboniferous or anthraciferaous, plumbiferous, and cupriferous. The ubity or fecundity of the soil in the buddable sections, when properly stercorated and irrigated, exuperates aeration. Besides frumentarious products, which yield a most oleaginous flour, there are produced in campestrian and olatory enclosures rank, citrals, sarmentaceous fragaria, cucurbitaceous, acetarious, bulbaceous, and in verity multifarious oleraceous edibles. There are vast, arid, alkaligenous areas and arenarious agerations, multitudinate conglomerate busts, and circumdenudated arenolitic elevations. Such areas not being scatterigenous and arable will ever be sparsely populated. The nummulary majoration or crescent dotation of the terra tenants originates from agistment, coemption, and vindition of equine, bovine, and lenigerous bovine quadrupeds or rotherbeasts, from attention to geoponics or agronomy, from usurious contracts and usufructuary holdings, from enhancement in value of preempted terra firma, from venations, agiotage, mining, emperatical pursuits or marketure, and from general negotiations. The paucity of population in some localities possesses a consimilitude to a mere exiguity. The life of many is bucolic and nomadic. The opera and many velated communities, the optimity of society prevails. However, the cordial compagination of so heterogeneous a mass and foraginous concurrence of all nationalities, as is the case in some localities, demands time. There must be a prior detruncation of the truculence and inurbanity of some of its divisions to obtain the optimity of society and secondation. Appetition for occupation, synergetics, electriomagy, duromagy, and circumforaneous evogations must undergo a minution. The comportance of the major portion of the Occidental Leod is by no means truculent, celestic, or immerigerous. Nevertheless, many are subtilous and have a great inhiation for captation, veneration, the coacervation of pelf, preemption and coemption of terra firma, and participating in festal jovialities. The ethics of many are greatly maculated by the rendition and vivacity of aquavitae. Localities replete with cades of aguardiente, pubolo, skink, and bub are patrocinated by and thronged with bibbers whose co-mates, condisciples, and competators are dolts, fanfarons, jobanols, anserous nincompoops, maudling gabalunzies, temulant wantwits, linguacious borrachios, and bateful barraters. They sometimes initiate their Saturnalian revelries with zorophagy and the manducation of ragus, savoloi, and poloni, to give an acumen to their gusto for the imbibition of inebriating potations. As a sequence, what stolk eloquence, what random temptations of the annotation of some vulgar enigma, what perpetuation and ruinous ebriety, what mutual pugnacity issuing in testy consultations and sanguinary pugilisms, such rendezvous are terrestrial pandemoniums. Relative to myself, as you are cognizant, for some time subsequent to my decession from home, I sojourned with Agnatians and Cognations, who are Nicolists, and engaged in terriculture or agriculation. The circumambient and circumjacent country is inter Amnion, Nemoris, and Belulal or Palustral. My vocation was at first subtegulaneous and sedentary, but subsequently became wholly extraforaneous. Prior to becoming inured to a castrensial mode of life, I very injudiciously submitted to humicubations during pernoctations, which, during the initial part of my castrumentations and al fresco employment, in connection with nocturnal irrorations, miasmatic exhalations, and the dankishness of the atmosphere generated by a want of lubricity, were extremely febrefacient, causing tertiary crustation and febrigulosity. Infrigidation, formication, cardiology, allotriophagy, and womble, succeeded by calenture, found introgression into my corporeal organization. I was medicamentally aggravated by a rueriginous charlatanical anencephalous medicaster, who, not being extra scient in ecology, imatology, soteriology, pharmacodynamics, and in the impartation of acritics, ekphrastics, and other pharmacons, and moreover, having erroneously diagnosticated my case, greatly minorated my eupepsy and occasioned me to spend many insomnious nights. In my brief swevens, I endured circumvallation of pigwidgeons, cacodemons, and audible simulacres in my horns. Upon these supervened synorexia, leucophlegmacy, turgid mons, and synchonism. I am now robust physically and sane mentally, or mens sana in corpore sano, with the exception of a slight odontalgia and cephalalgia, but not the slightest symptom of nostalgia. Eulogium to the supermundane powers for the revivification of my physical organization and for my invalescence and complete analepsis by means of antipyretics, cholagogics, peptics, anticosotics, and other medicamenta. Also, balneotherapy, kinesiopathy or kinesiatrics, and a migration to the salubrious clime. Since my ubication here, my functions have been bibliopalistical, bucolical, agronomical, biodeutical or pedagogical, and negotiatory. I have perorated the ponent regions quite extensively, and have witnessed many peregrinities and neoteric occurrences. I will now terminate this protracted autoschediastical scribment by imparting to you the verity that as yet feminality has not parlously fascinated me, though I am not by any means a misogynist or a misogamist, affected with neither gyneolatry or gynophobia, though somewhat of a philogynist. Desiderating not to be gibed with connubial relations, I have come to the elation to be the solivigant yet many annuary epochs. I shall offer no exculpation for hieroglyphical chirography, autoschediastical orthology, cacography, and cacology, but leaving it to you to decipher, etymologize, and ecclesiastize to the best of your lexicographical, lexicological, orismological, and philological abilities. I am, most lexiphanically, your quondam condisciple, Ivan.